Hey, welcome in. Johnston RV Center Saturday preview. It is week 11, along with Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor. I'm Ryan Brown. Thank you for joining us as the cold weather has moved in. I was just telling these guys I woke up this morning scrolling through Twitter and saw that the kick time, and I did not know this, the kick time, kick temp, I should say, in Oxford is 44 degrees. LT looks like he was ready for it. He's all bundled up back there on the screen den. LT, is it cold? I haven't even been outside today. Is it that cool out?
Yeah, it is. It's like 55. Do you hear this? I swear, right when we start, two different leaf blowers. Can y'all hear them?
Oh yeah,
I hear a little bit of the background. It's not as loud as you might imagine. For me, anyway. Dunaway, I don't know about you.
No, it's not that loud. I'm sure it's louder in LT's head, but it's like they're timing it out. We announced when the show's going to be, and they said, "Okay, 9:00, so we're going to do this."
Fire them up, boys! Fire them up! Let's go.
You always do leaf blowing this early?
What time is it, sir?
I don't know if you guys saw the tweet. It was from one of our listeners today. He said, "Let me find this." He said, "Talk about BS. Land developers show up at 6 a.m. on a damn Saturday to lay dirt. Bulldozer shaking the damn house. Should I let the air out of the tires or not?"
Oh yes. I mean, you would get
I
in the
told
old
the
Yellowstone days. You'd get shot at, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We got to have some sort of rules in society, right? Society's got to have some sort of rules, and one of those has to be how early is too early for construction work.
Well, to each their own, but and this is showing our age, but I remember a day when I would rake the leaves like once or twice a season.
Yeah.
Would be it.
And then burn the pile.
I think there's something about having some leaves in your yard, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Just what time of year it is.
We're not putting. We're not trying to putt at the Masters.
There's something about having leaves in the yard. Craig says leaf blower guy lives in LT's head rent free.
He does.
He does. I swear, Craig, the guy's in on it. I mean, it is it is a work now. I think they call it a work in wrestling, right? Dunaway. It's a work now. This guy's working land.
I truly believe that that the guy is watching our show right now and laughing. The guy actually may be Craig. Craig, it may be. If it's you, Craig, would you let us know, please?
Well played, Craig. All right. Thanks to JohnstonRVCenter.com, I-65 exit 304 in Coleman, where they're clearing out the 22s to make room for the 23s. They bring you the show today, JohnstonRVCenter.com, JohnstonRVCenter.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and give us that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe and set your alerts so you know when we're live for shows like this and the postgame show coming up later today. Also, if you're on Twitter, fire off a retweet of this show right here and give us a thumbs up as well. That'll get more people watching. We'll get more action in the chat room there. We'll get to that. Share us on Facebook. Same principle there. Give us a thumbs up and like us on Twitch. Thank you also to Champy's Chicken, champyschicken.com. And don't forget to head to nextround.store to get your gear. So I mentioned the cold weather, and we're going to start with the 11 o'clock games. One of those games, LT, is a game you have been hot on this week. Arkansas beating LSU. I saw video on game day earlier, snow on the ground at Reynolds Razorback Stadium. You heard me right, snow on the ground. I don't think they're going to play in snow, but that's how cold it is there.
Yeah, I don't know the last time Jaden Daniels played in snow. I'm going to guess never. I don't know how big of a factor that will be. I think Raheem Sanders is going to be a major factor, though. And I think he'll ultimately be the difference in this game. Have you guys heard, though, the status of KJ Jefferson?
I've seen nothing, no.
I have not. I can do a quick Google check, though, for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big story. As I was watching them preview that game, they did not mention it. But, I mean, LT, you would have to say, I don't know that it affects the outcome of the game, but if there were a team that is advantaged with that weather, it's Arkansas, right?
Oh, I would say so. Now, I don't know if you guys heard, we played the soundbite with Brian Kelly earlier this week saying, hey, man, we were outside in January, February, and March, practicing in 40 degrees, so the weather's not going to affect us.
Earlier this back on Thursday, KJ threw some on Monday, not as much on Tuesday, but that's still kind of a fluid situation. I will say this, Malik Hornsby had a really good week of practice.
Of course he did.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if you knew it was Malik Hornsby, LT, you'd flip your pick on that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would not like it nearly as much. I will tell you that. It would scare me to death.
Yeah, if I knew it was Malik Hornsby, that would bother me too. That game, let's start with it. We've talked a little bit about it here. We've touched on it. Number 7 LSU at Arkansas. LSU is minus 3.5 on the straight out of game day game. Dunaway, you've been on the Tigers all week. You haven't bought into the Arkansas. You still like that on this Saturday morning with the cold air and snow on the ground?
I do. I just wonder how many SEC teams play ever with snow and cold weather. I mean, it's you've heard people who play the game like John Parker Wilson come on our show and say 50 degrees is a perfect temperature to play football in. 40 degrees wouldn't be that bad off of that. Wind we saw last week impacts it more than I think the temperature. Obviously, if there's literally snow and ice on a turf or a field, that could be different, but it won't be that. So I think we as fans aren't as comfortable sitting in it. And I just don't think, even though you live in Arkansas, you have any more advantage. These players are probably being recruited from Florida and California and Texas, just like the rest of the SEC is. So I'm gonna still ride with LSU. I love the young players who made plays last week. The tight end is so good. The defensive end and outside linebacker is so good. The tackles were so good against Alabama. The only thing you question is, can you mentally be that sharp 2 weeks in a row? And I don't even think LSU played their best game either. I'm gonna keep riding with LSU here and just put it all in the hands of Jaden Daniels.
Well, LSU is the better team, I believe. Again, I just think this is a really good spot for Arkansas if KJ Jefferson plays. But this will be good for your angle here, Dunaway. LSU. No, Arkansas is 2-15 straight up as a home dog their last 17 games. So they haven't been good in this spot.
They have
not.
They
have not. Yeah, that's an alarming statistic. So that is LSU Arkansas. Again, the most fascinating part about this game to me is the impact on the crowd in Oxford, the players in Oxford. If in fact Arkansas pulls this upset and all of a sudden Ole Miss at the 2:30 kick is in the driver's seat for the West. I mean, Dunaway, to me, that's the thing that interests me most about this game, because I would be fascinated to see how Ole Miss reacts to that situation.
That's right. I mean, Alabama would still have some life at that point, but
sure.
Ole Miss controls destiny at that point, right? So it becomes a very different scenario in Oxford, Mississippi, for that home crowd at Ole Miss. And you going back to the weather, though, I do think there's a possibility if it's 40-something degrees in Arkansas for an 11 o'clock kick and that team sort of not reaching their expectations, that changes the atmosphere of that road game. And, if it's chilly at kickoff in Oxford, as you guys are projecting, maybe that changes a little bit of the buzz in the stands. People are worried more about staying warm and getting hydrated with something to keep them warm than they are about trying to impact the snap count or something. But that's a great scenario, an Arkansas win. And what does it do to the Ole Miss bench and sideline and stadium?
Let me ask you guys this. Arkansas and LSU both went out. Tennessee wins out. Georgia loses to LSU in the SEC championship game.
Okay, give that to me one more time for those at home.
Ole Miss runs the table, one loss, 11-1 out. A 10-2, 11-2. LSU wins the SEC championship. Tennessee wins out at 11-1, and Georgia's only loss is to LSU.
Georgia, LSU.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC champion in and Georgia's in.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, if LSU loses to Georgia and Tennessee.
But I'm saying if you've got 3 one-loss SEC teams at the end of this and a 2-loss champion, that's going to be interesting, depending on what happens in front.
It is, but they reward that championship heavily. I mean, they always talk about the data points, and I don't know what their formula is, Dunaway, but a conference champion is a data point that they add in, and that's one thing LSU would have that none of those would have.
You're talking about getting 3 teams into the playoffs. It's going to take chaos to get that to happen, and I think at that point they will start stacking up. Instead of 3 SEC teams, what about a 1-loss? We're heading to a scenario you're not going to have more than a 1-loss, undefeated and 1-loss Big Ten. So I think that eliminates any chance of a 3-team from any league.
By the way, as we talk about this LSU game, LT, for the record, at MGM today, the most bet team, and this is money bet on a team, not bets, the most bet team today is LSU minus the 3.5. So that is the most bet team right now at MGM. I have number 2 and number 3. I'll unveil those as we get to those games, but I don't think that would surprise you, right?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. Again, I've got to unfortunately sit on the sidelines for this one because 11 o'clocks just don't work out for me.
Yeah, were you guys as impressed though with like Mekhi Wingo as I was in that game last week, the defensive star for LSU, or Mason Taylor? I know he only had 3 catches, but they seemed to be 3 big catches in that contest.
Yeah, I don't know if I like Mason Taylor a lot because his uncle is Jason Taylor, and I just know the name, and he was a great Dolphin. But man, I thought that kid looked like. I think he's going to be a phenomenal tight end for them.
Yeah,
I'm shocked at the amount. Well, I shouldn't be shocked at the amount of talent that he's already amassed. But right now, what he's doing in recruiting. I mean, LSU. I mean, if you guys are buying a future for the next 5 years in the SEC, is it Georgia or is it LSU?
Oh, it's Georgia.
It's Georgia, but LSU might be second, maybe second. Yeah.
Oh, more than Alabama now.
I mean, I think about it.
Maybe.
Think about it. It's closer. Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not going to say it's closer now than it ever has been because LSU was right there with Alabama for a while. But yeah, I would think about it. It's the first time I'd probably say I would think about it. NH3425 says since 1961, LSU 5-5. With games at 40 degrees or lower. There's another trend and our angle. 5-5, 40 degrees.
It's not going to be that cold though. Is it going to be under 40?
It snows on the ground, so it is right now. I don't know. I don't know what it is in Fayetteville. I know in the kick temp in Oxford's 44, so I'm going to imagine Fayetteville's close to 40 or below. Landmine believer, first time in my life I'm not even anxious about a losable Bama game. If we lose today, I'm just going to be like, whatever. Alabama fans have lost their passion, Dunaway.
It's 31, by the way. 31 in Fayetteville.
31 in Fayetteville, yeah.
Right now it is?
Yeah, kick time 36.
Oh, there you go.
5-5. All right, let's talk about some other games in the 11 o'clock window. The big noon kick, Ohio State, minus 39.5, hosting Indiana. LT, we sat here last week with a similar game, and we called it a get-right game for Ohio State's offense. Horrible conditions. They did not get right. They looked bad. I assume the get-right game goes this week against Indiana.
Yeah, I would assume too. And look, and that was all about weather last week. I mean, you couldn't throw the football. I forgot who it was. I think it was Klatt. You've still got to be able to line up the football and run it down their throat in that situation against Northwestern, a team that's now lost 8 consecutive games. But Indiana is just not good. Really, really bad. They're 1-67 all-time versus top 5 teams. And this is one of those games. Ohio State, by the way, scored 20-plus in 70 straight games. And as bad as Stroud was the last couple of weeks, he still leads the FBS and QBR. No Travion Henderson again today. Jackson Smith and Jigba's out again. Again, I don't know when we're ever going to see him again. But I still think Ohio State rolls. There's a reason they're a 41-point favorite now.
Yeah, 46 and partly cloudy at kick in Columbus, by the way, if you're scoring at home. This game shapes out to be like 55-10, if I had to guess. Easy win for Ohio State, and it's a get-right game if you call that against a inferior opponent. Good game for Platt to be at. Wow.
Yeah, really. Early half of the CBS doubleheader is number 5 Tennessee playing host to Missouri. Tennessee starts today as a 19.5-point favorite, total of 57.5. Dunaway, the Vols coming off that loss. First time they've had to do that this year. It'll be interesting to see what their reaction is to that.
It is 53 and partly cloudy in Knoxville today for that one. So not as cold, ironically, in the mountains as it is in Oxford, Mississippi. It's crazy. Yeah. Missouri and Tennessee. I'm interested to see what Missouri's defense looks like against Tennessee because we've seen what we thought was a pretty good Alabama defense gets torched. Georgia plays the same style as Alabama, had a free look, talked to a scout last night at the Thompson Vestavia game who was just amazed at what Georgia did. And the first thing he said was, of course, they have the same calls and everything Alabama did, so it was a free look. And I said that. One of the smartest things I said on our show that week. And he said it was absolutely 100% because what they did shifting to get Alabama in problems had zero impact on Kirby and Georgia, and they were prepared for that. Now, can Missouri adjust off of what Georgia did last week and try to continue to stunt Josh Heupel's offense? I don't think he can, mainly because of Missouri's offense. I don't think they can score with Tennessee. Tennessee gets enough points to win this one. I'll take them to cover, and I think it's another testament to Josh Heupel's coaching that much like after they beat Alabama, they had an A-plus game against Kentucky. I think after this loss, it takes a good coaching staff to get another A-plus game. I think they get it today at Tennessee. Senior Day, final home game for these Volunteers in this special year.
It's hard to believe in the last 10 years since Missouri's been in the conference, they've only been a 20-plus point underdog 5 times, and they're 4-1 against the number. So they've been pretty good in this spot. This might be too many points. I think Missouri's defense could at least slow Tennessee down. I think Missouri's defense is pretty good. But on the other side, I agree with you, Dunaway. Tennessee, there's no way Missouri can keep up with them offensively. So Tennessee wins the game. They're 6-1 against the number as a favorite this season. But I don't know if they cover. Tough game. I'm staying away from it.
I mean, just look at the total, LT. The total I got on my screen is 57. So they are not. I mean, that's a low total.
Yeah.
By the way, I told you I would tell you the other 3 most bet money-wise teams at MGM as we got to them. There's another one, number 3 today. Tennessee minus 19.5.
They just showed them scooping snow off the turf in Fayetteville on game.
See?
I just saw they had ironically LT leaf blowers out blowing the snow off the.
Jesus, I think they're grinding stumps now. I don't know what the hell they're doing. There's multiple offenders out right now, though.
Are you surprised Tennessee's number 3 among most bet teams?
Am I?
LT, are you surprised Tennessee's number 3 among most bet teams?
Yeah, a little bit. You know what's really surprising is that's 2 11 o'clock games. And, if you've ever been in Vegas on a football weekend, man, I mean, getting up, and I guess, obviously this is all pre-money played, but, man, I mean, betting those 9 a.m. games when, people have been out and up all night in Vegas, I'm a little surprised the handle's that big on these early games.
Let's go to the 2:30 window. Maryland and Penn State also on Fox. Number 14 Penn State playing host to Maryland minus the 10.5. Dunaway, you and I both yesterday just kind of had a gut feel, I guess. I don't know about you. It was kind of a gut feel to me. Then Maryland makes this thing interesting at State College. And I really don't know why, other than the fact that you've given one of the greatest stats of all time. Actually, it's a great Sean Clifford stat that you've given a couple times. And I think it just it explains in one stat Penn State's offensive issues.
Yeah, and a couple of games ago when he threw his 3rd interception of the game, it came right before he became a touchdown pass and the all-time touchdown leader in Penn State history. So it's a roller coaster for Penn State. It's what Bo Nix used to be when he was at Auburn. And this Maryland team, they're 6-3, 3-3 in the Big Ten. They played, was it Michigan? They played really well earlier this year. They are an offense that when Talia Tungavaloa is on, they've got weapons. And say what you will about Mike Loxley and how bad he called a game. Was that the one in Santa Clara? He can call a game. I would, I don't want to step on any toes here, but he's not the worst play caller Alabama's had in the last 5 years. Mike Loxley can call a game. I like the way he calls a game. I like Maryland's offense. And I think they keep it close. In fact, I think they win the game outright. Upset.
Wow. Well, he's done obviously a pretty good job there. I mean, they're seeking their first 7-3 start since 2010. But historically, they've been awful. They've lost 29 straight to top 15 teams. They're 2-16. Their last 18 against the number versus top 15s. Can you guys even hear me?
Yes. It's just amazing. The leap.
Yeah, I mean, people think I make this up. Brown, you did the show from here. It's amazing. I don't get it.
The last one, right, as Les started talking, they fired it up. I mean, it could not have been timed any better. I'm sorry to laugh at your pain, Les.
Do you live near an airport?
I need subtitles for you guys.
I think it'd be quieter if you were near the airport.
What's nuts is like people probably assume that I have these late night parties that upset the neighbors. Like everything is very insulated in the house. I'm not outside, but I'm thinking about maybe moving everything out here tonight.
It's going to be cold, as we've established. You're going to have to watch games in the cold.
I got an outside fireplace, Brown.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, a lot of these ranked versus ranked these ranked games just don't interest me a ton. Like, do you guys want to talk about Boston College, NC State, or Nebraska, Michigan? I mean, I know it's a top 25 game. It just doesn't interest me a ton.
I mean, Alabama's 2 losses outside of a college football playoff round, and Auburn's looking for a coach. We can talk about the Auburn game and then call it a 30-minute show this morning if you want to.
I'll give them an hour, Jim. They expect an hour.
All right.
But also at 2:30 on ESPN, number 10, Clemson playing host to Louisville. Clemson -7. LT has mastered the art of drawing the Cardinal logo, so he is all in on Louisville. LT, this morning, you still like Louisville plus the 7 maybe to win outright?
Yeah, I got a little gun shy on this one. I ended up putting 11 plays out there, and 7 are on sides, and then 4 are on totals. By the way, coming off 3-0 college football night last night. But I backed off this game. I don't know why. I think what scares me is Clemson seems to be a little different at home than they are on the road. This is almost like an Alabama thing now. And it's almost like Clemson is Alabama light. The offense is just completely out of sync. And I think Louisville's hot right now. If Louisville can force turnovers, which they have their last 4 games, the reason they've won 4 straight and they've covered 4 straight is they forced 15 turnovers in those 4 games. If they can force DJ into a couple of mistakes. We talked about this yesterday. I think it's a quick hook. Klubnik will be in there. Outside of Will Shipley, I don't see any weapons on this Clemson team. And I think on the edge, I think Malik Cunningham can give the defense some problems.
Yeah, Malik Cunningham not only leads the team in passing with almost 1,500 yards, he leads the team in rushing at 541 yards. And to your point, LT, about weapons, the leading receiver, I mean, we are about to play, what is this for Clemson? They're 8-1, about to play their 10th game. Their leading receiver is 390 yards this year. 390 yards is their leading receiver coming into this game, and that's Williams. But keep in mind, Clemson is still playing for something, though everyone has shuffled them off of the college football playoff race. If they win this game, they win the Atlantic Division outright. So basically playing for a spot in the ACC championship game today. So Louisville can beat them. I will go with Clemson to have a Will Shipley get right game.
You know what's crazy is Clemson. I mean, real quick, Brown. This is a team that was in the top 5 last week. They haven't really had any receivers since 2018, as far as like alpha receivers. Alabama doesn't. Georgia doesn't. I'm not counting Brock Bowers. It's weird that you've got teams that are still in the mix that don't have those type of receivers.
But a loss here for Clemson, Dunaway, to your point, a win here, and they lock up that division and go to the championship game again. But a loss here, and realistically, the ACC is done in terms of the college football playoff.
Yeah, I feel like they are too anyway. But you're right. If they win, they do keep some hope alive with chaos on top that they could be ACC champions and sneak in with 1 loss.
One of the top 25 matchups, top 25 versus top 25 today, is down in New Orleans, 2:30 ESPN2 kick for UCF at Tulane. I mentioned this on the show the other day. Number 17 Tulane is hosting a top 25 matchup, 2 ranked teams for the first time since 1949. And that year, it was an SEC game. They were playing LSU when they were a conference team. Tulane minus 1.5 LT as they play host to UCF.
Yeah, I've got to play on this game, and you look at Willie Fritz, the job he's done. Sands last year, for whatever reason, they dropped back to 2-10, but this is a really good Tulane team. They're 8-1 against the number this year. That's the best cover percentage in all of football. You look at UCF though, 5-1 straight up their last 6 against Tulane, but they're just 1-5 against the number in those games. So Central Florida's been able to win these games. They hadn't been able to cover. Obviously, they're getting 1.5 here. I think it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, I do too. The loss to East Carolina keeps UCF from already being ahead of Tulane in the rankings, but there's a lot to play for when it comes to a New Year's Six Bowl, which is, I think, your goal at a group of 5. I mean, Cincinnati's an outlier getting to the playoffs last year. This game to me comes down to just how good is John Rice Plumlee. He leads the team in passing, leads the team in rushing, and if Plumlee has a good game, then UCF wins it. If he doesn't have a good game, then I'll go with Spears in the running game of Tulane. So I have a feeling it's UCF.
Are we sure Rice Plumlee's starting? Because I heard Mikey Keene is in the mix today. I don't know.
Well, if Mikey Keene plays, I'll take the running game of Spears and ride the wave.
I like your play on words there, Dunaway, ride the wave. It's Tulane's chance to get in a New Year's Six Bowl. If they win this game, they still have the leg up on the New Year's Six Bowl. So I don't know what kind of pressure that does or doesn't add to them. I don't know how much they're thinking about that, or if it's more about just conference implications. But that is on the line.
Is this one of the years where the Sugar Bowl gets the Group of 5 team? Because if that's the case, that would be really cool to have Tulane playing in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl.
I have seen them, Jim, projected in the Cotton.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, but I think I've seen them projected in the Cotton. 2:30 CBS. Alabama is at Ole Miss. The Crimson Tide minus 11.5. We'll come back and make an official pick, but I'll start with you, Dunaway. For Alabama, this game, you can narrow it down to one, but if you can, they have to do what?
Well, for me, Alabama has to. What can they do that they haven't done? They got to stop the run. That's what they have to do, or limit the run. Keep Mississippi in check running the football. You go back to that Tennessee game, and that's where we go back a lot, and even to the LSU game with Jaden Daniels. But that's a quarterback. Tennessee ran the ball well against Alabama, and Tennessee couldn't run against Georgia. So Alabama's rush defense in these two losses. Not that they've been, horrible. They just have allowed some big moments to the running game be good enough to beat you. And that's what Mississippi likes to do. That's how Lane Kiffin coaches football. He likes to run to set up all of his other plays. And they've got receivers that are good enough to beat these Alabama DBs one-on-one. If Jackson Dart is having a good day throwing. I like the Dart kid. I think he has a live arm. He runs the ball good enough to have some Jaden Daniels-like moments. But they have a really great rushing attack. So for me, it's Alabama's linebackers. And the scout I was talking to last night, he said, I'll go back to another comment he made. He goes, which player hasn't shown up the most this year when I watch Alabama's tape? And I said, Will Anderson. And he said, 100%. Wow. And I asked him, I said, are they scheming away from him? Are they throwing extra blockers at him? He says, yeah, you are. But when you're drafting first, second, or third in the draft, you want a guy who will fight through that and still impact the quarterback. And he says in big moments this year, Will Anderson just, he hasn't been the impact everyone thought he was going to be. I think we've talked about it on the show.
Yeah, I agree. I still think 31 is going to go in the top 3. I think there's enough film on him and how talented he is that I don't think that's going to be a factor. Back to it, I agree with you. I think it comes down to Ole Miss running the football, how much success they have. I know I've got them at 171.5 yards. What do you have it at, Dunaway?
I had them at 137.5. So right in the middle, I think is 154.5. So I feel like if it's around 154, that's a good day for Bama.
Yeah, I would agree. And you look at, Kentucky was able to stop this run. LSU obviously was. So we'll see what happens here. This is interesting. I know you guys know that Alabama hasn't lost consecutive games in a season since 2013. Did you guys realize, though, that's the longest streak in SEC history?
In history, huh? SEC history.
Yep.
Wow, I did not know that.
That is pretty impressive, going almost 10 years without losing back-to-back regular season games or consecutive games, not even regular season.
When you put it that way, it's almost a full decade. That is pretty incredible. There's no doubt about that. And that was a regular season and postseason in that back-to-back. I guess their last back-to-back regular season losses goes all the way back to 2007, right?
I would assume.
Yeah.
Hey, I love what Goose said. I would absolutely throw a Ranger tonight. You need a light show that shines on their house as well. Would love for them to look out the window and it's 3 people throwing down.
Oh, I thought that might have killed it. Once you said that, I thought they might be done. That would be funny. Throw a Ranger tonight, LT. Club LT, move it out in the back.
Yeah, make it your homecoming. Put a big bonfire out in the backyard.
The problem, I don't mind doing things like that, but it affects the other neighbors that aren't doing anything.
Yeah. You know what we call that? Collateral damage.
Collateral damage. Can't worry about that in a war, can you, Dunaway?
You cannot. You cannot.
Hey, it is the Johnston RV Center Saturday preview. JohnstonRVCenter.com. I-65 exit 304 in Coleman, 334 in Decatur. Always online, JohnstonRVCenter.com. They're clearing out the 22s to make room for the 23s. That means you save. If you're looking for something big, something medium, fifth wheel, big, small, whatever, JohnstonRVCenter.com. Also, thanks to Sterling and the crew at Champy's World Famous Fried Chicken. Great for your tailgating down in Auburn if you're headed down there for Auburn, Texas A&M, or your football parties. Dunaway, did you make it by last night?
I did. I was about to tell you guys, you'll be jealous of me. I swung by. Maggie had a late night rolling for her final exam, so I picked her up a 3-piece dark snack of fried chicken. She loves just the bone-in fried chicken. And I, of course, for my viewing today, picked up a 6-pack of what? Mississippi Delta recipe tamales. And while I was waiting on my order, this couple came in, younger than me, by the way, but grandparents. And they were sitting next to me with their grandchild, and they were placing an order. And I said, "Do you guys like the tamales?" They didn't know what a tamale was. So I got the staff to bring them out 3 tamales real quick so they could have their first tamales. And let's just say this long married couple were fighting over the third one on who was going to eat most of the third one.
You literally spiced their marriage up. Dunaway.
I did. I literally spiced their marriage up. But that's how good the tamales are. And they're great. I'm looking forward to my halftime of the 11 o'clock game snack today.
You have to train them how to eat it that way? Do you have to show them how to eat the tamales?
Well, training is a tough word, but I did have the staff explain to them on rolling the husk away.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but it was interesting. I did come out of my box of my awkwardness, and I guess it could be awkward because rarely do I bring my glasses in, and usually I'm ordering, looking at the menu like this, trying to do this. But I did have my glasses, so I'd put them in my pocket. And the guy had taken his wife's glasses and was doing this, trying to order off the menu. And I was like, "Hey, you want to try mine?" And he took them and put them right on, which I don't know if I would have done. He took them and put them right on, and these work perfect for me. And so I was pretty happy with myself stepping out of my box there. Of course, I was knee deep into a margarita. So
yeah, of course you were. All right, let's move on to the 2:30 window. Also, hey, don't forget if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you've given us a thumbs up there. Subscribe if you have not already, and make sure to set alerts so you always know when we're live, especially for specialty shows like this outside our normal 9 to 1. Retweet this if you're on Twitter. Give us a thumbs up there as well. Share it on Facebook. Like us on Facebook and on Twitch. All right, 2:30 also. LT, we'll start with you on this one. Down at Protective. It is senior day for UAB as North Texas comes to town. UAB, a 5.5-point favorite for this senior day send-off, LT.
Considering it's senior day and how good UAB has been at home, I know they're coming off a home loss. I just think Dwayne McBride running the football, Hopkins back under center. I think UAB will end up winning this game and covering. I almost gave out UAB. I stayed away from it, though. They've just, honestly, in one-score games, they haven't been good this year.
They have not. It's been a lot of close losses for UAB. McBride's been amazing. Even when he's part of the offense, they still get it done. 14 rushing touchdowns for him. Hopkins or Jacob at quarterback. It doesn't matter to me if McBride can run. I think they can win this game. North Texas is a team that's been really good in the conference, 5-1. They have championship hopes alive. Their only loss is to UTSA, a team that they, for the most part, had beat for a while. Tough game for UAB, but I'm like you. I think this is a pride game for the seniors, and I think they win a close one today at Protective Stadium.
Yeah, I was told Hopkins, expect him to start, is what I was told, but I thought Zeno played well enough last Saturday that, if you go to Zeno, I mean, basically, LT, they had 2 drives at the end of the game they had to score on, and he let them down the field both times.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've seen Zeno in a Big 12 championship game get reps. I mean, this is a guy that's got a lot of experience. Obviously, he's not your starting quarterback for a reason. Can we answer our friend Charlie's question because he's texting me?
Yep, there you go. So I assume you're still not willing to call the SEC living on reputation this year. Both of you will get a shot at this. LT, you go first.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's the best conference. I mean, right now we're talking about Tennessee 1 loss, Ole Miss 1 loss. Alabama is the best 2-loss team in college football, whatever that means. You've got maybe the most dominant team in Georgia. LSU is a team that gets better each and every week. I mean, if you did, and Charlie's a Big Ten guy, and we said this earlier this week, we think there's only 3 teams that can win a national championship: Ohio State, Georgia, and maybe Michigan. But if we did a SEC Big Ten football challenge, it would get nasty.
Yeah, I don't understand. What do you mean living off the reputation? You're not living off a reputation when year in and year out, you're the team that has to be beaten to win a national championship. Two of those in the SEC in the national championship game last year, and every year there's an SEC team in there playing for that championship, Charlie. And that doesn't knock Ohio State or Michigan of being 2 of the best football teams this year or programs all time. But then after that, where are you going? Who's your number 3 team? You think Illinois is going to line up with Alabama and beat them? You think Penn State's going to line up with Alabama and beat them? Penn State came and beat Auburn, and that could be the worst team in the SEC not named Vandy this year. So I don't understand the reputation. There's reality of having 2 teams that can win a national championship. But I'll be honest, if it was a 12-team field, I think there are 3 or 4 teams in the SEC that could get into that 12-team tournament and win the national championship.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with everything you guys said. If there is a team or if there is a league this year, to me, that is changing their reputation, I do think it's the Pac-12. I think we've got more good teams now. Lance, last night, your Trojans lost a critical piece on offense. Otherwise, an easy win over Colorado. That's a tough loss, though, at running back.
It's a devastating loss. Right before the half, Travis Dye goes down, and he's been so good for this offense. And I think I talked about him yesterday or Thursday. I mean, he's been as pivotal, really, as Caleb Williams. Jordan Addison has been a no-show the last 3 weeks. He finally played last night. He had 1 reception. But, I don't know. Austin Jones is good. I don't know if you watched the true freshman Raleek Brown last night. The guy is super fast. It's just hard to get a gauge on those guys against Colorado's defense because the Buffalo's defense is so bad. But I think this could change the course of the Pac-12 championship because I even liked UCLA before Travis Dye went down. I just don't know how USC beats UCLA without Travis Dye.
Yeah, and going a little bit back to what Charlie was saying earlier, watch USC when they come into the Big Ten, how easily they are one of the elite teams, and then watch how having USC, depending on if UCLA can continue to be good, but specifically USC, watch how when USC comes to the league and you add one more elite team, how that starts impacting the rest of the conference too. The gap that could be formed between some teams you think are really good in the Big Ten, the Penn States, the Wisconsins, how far do they drop off once you get a USC into the league from being up there trying to chase Michigan and Ohio State? When you get Ohio State, Michigan, and USC into that league in the future, now you're starting to talk a little SEC like depth that they've been playing with for a long, long time. I like this USC team. I loved my favorite part last night, LT, is when Caleb Williams was trying to get everybody revved up and going on the sidelines. That was real leadership and really a passion that I didn't see from some Lincoln Riley teams in Oklahoma. I like everything they're doing out there. I didn't realize until they put up a graphic during the broadcast last night exactly how many starters on offense. I knew they'd hit the portal a lot, but their entire starting offense is almost new portal guys. So that just means they're getting better and better as the season goes on.
Riley likes to put on a show, and Brown, I saved you on your pick 3, by the way.
You did, thank you.
They got a late cover there, but that's only the 3rd time they've won by 20-plus this year. But what I didn't like is you guys saw this, I'm sure, in the second half. I think they got up, I think it was 24 or 31 at this particular point, and they do a fake field goal or fake extra point for 2. Why would you not save that for UCLA next week? Because it was a great call, and then the dude does a scripted back flip to get a, unsportsmanlike, but I just don't know why. I mean, it's fun to put on a show, but that's one of those plays that could actually win you a game against UCLA.
Yeah, unless you got a fake field goal or a fake extra point play off of that now you put that on tape and now you do something off of that, right?
That's what I thought. But Lance, I mean, that last touchdown with 36 seconds to go, Lincoln Riley 100% knew what the point spread was.
Yeah. You know what's funny is, so that was a big game for me last night. It was the free lock at lanceslock.com. But if he doesn't punch it in right there, I think he's got to take a knee.
Yeah.
Like if he's done on the one, there's only like 17 seconds with a moving clock. So I think that was the final play of the game. So that was big.
Yeah, there's no doubt it was big. All right. To the late slate tonight. Actually, before we go to the late slate, I want to hit a 3:00 game. SEC Network, LT. South Carolina is at Florida.
Love this game.
On the surface, Dunaway's got a big play here. On the surface, You would like Florida minus the 8.5, you would think, but this was a game South Carolina won going away last year.
Yeah, they won 40-17. Again, we said it was kind of nail and coffin go away game for Dan Mullen. South Carolina, I don't know how they win. You watch them, and Spencer Rattler's just not a good quarterback. I'm kind of surprised. We thought they were going to get a major upgrade from a team that won 7 games last year, rotating 3 very average to below average quarterbacks. You get a former 5-star guy in Rattler. He went 3 touchdowns last week against Vanderbilt, but that matches his season total for the first 7 games against FBS teams. He just hasn't been good. Anthony Richardson is unpredictable. When he's good, he's really good. So I have no idea what's going to happen here. Dunaway, you've got a good play on this. I stayed away from it.
Oh, I don't have a play on it. I just love this game because you have injuries at Florida's wide receiver and South Carolina's defensive back. Hard to believe that South Carolina with a win becomes a 7-3 team.
Yep.
And I looked at their points per game last night as I was trying to do my picks in my office pool, and I was surprised that both of these score exactly the same amount of points per game. And that's just not the way South Carolina's offense is perceived by me. But, Carolina averages 31.1 a game. Florida averaged, I think it was 31.2. So you end up with, 2 teams that look a lot alike playing each other. Surprising to me that, Florida probably wins because they're at home, but I like South Carolina inside the 8 in this one and maybe win this game outright. And we're talking about a 7-3 South Carolina going to the final 2 games of the year. That's another step forward for Shane Beamer if he gets this team 7-3 with that bad of quarterback play.
All right, let's go to the night slate, where in the night slate, we'll start with you, Dunaway. We've got an interesting number of ranked road dogs. Let's start with the first one, ranked road dogs. That's the theme here for the late slate. Kansas State, the first one. They're number 19, but they're catching 2.5 at Baylor. The Bears minus 2.5, Dunaway. That game is... You want to watch it, FS1, 6 o'clock.
That tells me that Adrian Martinez is not 100% and that Baylor's defense is ready to put on a show in this one to contain that Kansas State run game. And I think this is a Dave Aranda game, right? Kansas State makes so much of their success running the football. I like Baylor in this contest to win the game outright.
Well,
not even underdogs.
To let you know, ranked underdogs versus unranked teams are only 3-11 straight up this year. Ooh. I think Kansas State actually wins this game with their defense.
Really? So you're telling me the ranked team, being the underdog on the road, has only won 3 games this year?
Yeah, ranked underdogs versus unranked teams are 3-11 straight up this year.
Yeah.
Another ranked road dog.
But you still like Kansas State despite that, right?
Yeah, I do like Kansas State today.
Okay.
Road dog, and it's understandable in this case, LT, because they're at Oregon. But it's number 25, Washington, catching 12.5. It's a big number, 12.5 at Oregon.
Well, Oregon's just been dominant offensively, and in this stretch, they really haven't beaten anybody outside of UCLA, but they beat UCLA pretty soundly, and their offense has been what seems to be unstoppable. But on the other side, Michael Penix against this Oregon defense can have a lot of success. It just depends if Penix is on or not. I think we'll have a really good game for a while. I could see Oregon pull away late. I stayed away from this game. If I would have played it, I probably would have played Washington. It'll be a fun game. If you haven't watched Oregon's offense, we've been talking about them. A lot of people have been talking about them. I heard Urban Meyer last night on the broadcast and at halftime say Bo Nix is one of his Heisman finalists right now.
Wow. That's insane. You're right, though. When it comes to Oregon's defense, these lackluster teams they played, Stanford scored 27 on them. I think holding Arizona to 22 was not a bad defensive effort. UCLA is good. They scored 30. Cal scored 24 on them, though. So I think Washington can score a lot of points in this game. And I just think 12 and a half, wherever you're getting it, is a big number for 2 top 25 teams. If I was playing this, I'd play Washington inside the number and Oregon to win it outright. I like the Ducks. So that's a fun game. I love the night slate tonight, that one, and the TCU Texas game.
Well, here's another night slate. That's a 6 o'clock Fox game, main Fox for that one, by the way. Another night slate game done away. Number 1, Georgia at Mississippi State. This is not a road dog catching points. In fact, they're laying 16.5 tonight in the Battle of the Bulldogs. Do you like Georgia to cover that 16.5?
I do. That seems like such a small number for a Georgia game with that defense. And I go back to the same analogy I used with getting a second, their first look, but really a second look of that style of defense against Tennessee. Georgia plays exactly the same terminology, same style of defense as Alabama. And Mike Leach has had zero success against a Nick Saban Alabama defense since he's been in the league. And I just like Kirby's style, just like the Alabama style, and maybe with better players in the secondary than Alabama does to just shut down Mississippi State tonight. I think it'll be a game that looks a lot like what you saw Mississippi State and Alabama, except it's in Starkville. So I'll give Mississippi State a little bit more success, but I like Georgia easily covering this number.
Well, in the off season, my predictions were Alabama and Georgia would each have one regular season loss. I'm already obviously wrong on Alabama, but I said it would be to Tennessee. Georgia's would be to Mississippi State. I thought State was going to be a little bit better. Georgia wouldn't be as good, but everything says Georgia in this game. They've won 12 of the last 13 meetings straight up. They're 10-3 against the number as a road favorite of 14 or more since 2019. Mississippi State has failed to cover in 3 consecutive games, and they're 0-6 against the number of their last 6 out versus top fives. I agree with you. You saw what Alabama's defense was able to do against this offense. Probably more of the same with Georgia.
Well, I'm loving Dejon Edwards more and more, the Georgia running back. The more touches he gets, the power he runs with, I'm liking that kid more and more as we get closer to the playoffs.
Another ranked road dog, LT, is number 15 North Carolina at Wake. UNC laying 4.5 to the Demon Deacons tonight.
Yeah, this game last year, I think it was 115 combined points. I think this total right now is like 75 or 76. Sam Hartman, his last couple of games has been bad. He's thrown 6 picks. That's uncharacteristic for Hartman. I think he gets back on track. But Drake May's probably the better quarterback, as good as Hartman's been the last couple of years. It's a great quarterback matchup. I think North Carolina's defense is absolute garbage, though. And I think, Wake 10-3 versus top 15 teams against the number since 2015. They've lost 2 straight after that 6-1 start, but I think Wake gets back on track today.
Wake seems to always score 30 until these last 2 games, and now they've put up 21 against Louisville and 21 against NC State. If they can't get to 30, they don't beat North Carolina. That's the challenge to me. Yeah. They haven't gotten to 30 the last 2 times, and you talk about that North Carolina defense. They give up 28 to Virginia, 24 to a pretty talented Pitt team, 35 to Duke, 24 to Miami, 10 to Virginia Tech. So a little improvement since the first of the year from that defense. They got to get 30 plus if they're going to slow down Drake May and the Carolina Tar Heels. I like North Carolina in this game against the number.
Dunaway, another ranked road dog, is number 4 TCU catching 7 at number 18 Texas, game day site there. Longhorns minus the 7 in Austin.
It seems like everybody in the country has already given this win to Texas, right? The way they're talking on game day, the way the numbers the number's up to 7 now. And I like Texas too. You guys know I love Bijan Robinson. And, Quinn Ewers has had, he's hit a little bit of a redshirt freshman wall. But I like Texas to win this game. TCU cannot keep walking on the edge. Lady Bird agrees.
Look, I like Texas. I mean, Texas is my free play today. You look at TCU as a top 5 being a 7-point underdog. This is the first time ever a top 5 team has been a 7-point or more underdog to a non-top 10 team. There's a reason this number is 7.5. I think Texas, the problem is Texas blows leads and TCU comes back from big deficits. So, you're never going to be comfortable in this game if you've got Texas and they're up 14 or 21. But I do like Texas in this game. I think Bijan Robinson has a huge game against this TCU defense.
And by the way, this could be the Big 12 championship game. We could be seeing the 2 teams that are in the Big 12 championship game. It's that big of a game today for Texas, because if you look at the standings, top 2 teams go. TCU's 6-0 in the league. Texas is 4-2. Baylor's 4-2. Kansas State's 4-2. So there's still an opportunity for Texas to play for a championship.
Yeah, TCU locks their spot in with 1 more win.
LT, I told you I would give you the top 3 most bet on teams at MGM. Number 1 was LSU. Number 3 was Tennessee. Number 2, the Texas Longhorns today.
That's scary. I mean, that goes against everything I believe in. But I just, watching TCU, I like Max Duggan a lot. But Gary Patterson going against his former team, I just think this is I can't say it's a bigger game for Texas because TCU is playing for a. They not only do they have a path for the college football playoff. I mean, they're in if they win out based on where the committee has them right now. But I think this is a big, big game for Sark. I think this really will establish some momentum for him going in the right way. Problem is, Quinn Ewers has looked really good, and he's looked really bad.
Yep.
So what Ewers are you going to get? I think we're going to get the good Ewers today. He's only completed 58% of his passes. That's second worst in the Big 10 or the Big 12 this year. But I think we'll get good Quinn Ewers against that TCU defense today.
And if you're wondering, LT believes in the Father, the Son, and fading the public. That's who LT believes in.
Yes. Before we talk some Auburn, Texas A&M, let me remind you it's the Johnston RV Center Saturday preview. Thank you to Johnston RV Center, I-65, exit 304 in Coleman, 334 in Decatur, always online, johnstonrvcenter.com. That is johnstonrvcenter.com. They're moving out the 22s to make room for the 23s. You are the beneficiary of that because you save big. Also, thank you to Sterling and the entire gang at Champy's world-famous fried chicken, champyschicken.com. That is champyschicken.com. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Also, make sure you subscribe not only to our YouTube channel, do that, set alerts so you know when we're live, like the postgame show coming up later on, but also make sure you followed us on social media, Next Round Live, at Next Round Live, everywhere on social media. Give us a retweet on Twitter and share us on Facebook as well. Also, don't forget the store, nextround.store, for all your fall gear, like hoodies like this, nextround.store. Dunaway's got one of the many hats we've got there at nextround.store. All right, let's talk some Auburn. Dunaway changing hats for the last 10 minutes here. Oh, battle red. No. Dunaway's got all the hats. All right, let's go Auburn, Texas A&M. We'll start with you, Dunaway. Auburn, Texas A&M. The Tigers will give an official pick, but they have flipped around to the favorite in this game after it opened A&M. Auburn right now favored by 1.5 at Jordan-Hare.
Sold out Jordan-Hare Stadium. I mean, the basketball crowd was unbelievable last night. Really, I mean, USF's football team should be as physical as their basketball team is. It was a great atmosphere at Auburn Arena for that game last night. Auburn pulling out a win late. That crowd sold out. Will spill over now into Jordan-Hare Stadium. Sold out tonight. Last meaningful home game of the year for the fans to cheer on their Tigers, and they'll be there for Carnell Williams. I like the way Carnell's committed to running the football. That's sort of, to me, been the key of Auburn being good this year and being patient with it and making it work. Carnell did that last week in the comeback against Mississippi State. I just have a feeling this is going to be a Texas A&M win tonight, that those great athletes that they have, Devon Achane has a big game. I like the Aggies. It may be close. It'll be a great atmosphere, but I'll go with the Aggies here.
You know, I mean, Texas A&M, it's amazing how bad the offense has been, averaging a SEC low 22.8 points per game. But watching Connor Wegman a couple of weeks ago, I think he could be the answer for Jimbo at quarterback. Might be too late for Jimbo. We'll see. They've lost 5 straight games for the first time in Jimbo's coaching career, and for the first time for A&M since 1980. It's 2 bad teams. I thought Auburn possibly could be in this situation this year. I never thought that A&M would be this bad. But the road team in this matchup has won 8 of the last 10. I agree with you, Dunaway. Auburn's given up 6 different guys have gone 100+ on the ground. I think Achane has a big night. I like A&M.
Yeah, but I would love to see an Auburn win tonight. Because I loved Carnell Williams. I covered him in high school and in college. But just to push the pressure point of how far this could get for Texas A&M and what those boosters could do to Jimbo Fisher, that's the only thing that would make that even more interesting is if they lose to Auburn. If they don't win another game the rest of the way, that would be an amazing pressure point on those boosters on what you do with that massive contract with Jimbo Fisher. That would be chaos if you like to cheer for something down the stretch.
We've got 3 out now.
I can tell, yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but when I used to rake a yard, it would take me an hour, maybe 2 hours to rake a yard. How does it take 3 guys more than an hour to blow a yard?
Yeah. Do you glance back there? Are they even blowing leaves, or are they just running them?
So they're just in the air.
Okay, so there's 2 with the handheld, and there's 1 guy on like a driving leaf blower thing.
My only question is, the indoors of your house, has it been condemned? Is there a reason you're fighting through this?
What's that?
I said, has the inside of your house been condemned? Is there a reason you're not going inside?
Because we started, I would have gone in before if they would have. They didn't. You guys heard this. I mean, everything was fine until we started the show.
Hey, real quick, before we make our official picks on Alabama, Auburn, and UAB, do you think Arizona has anything at all for UCLA? Number 12 UCLA at home, 19.5. Dunaway, you hinted at you thought maybe this would be tough on UCLA.
I mean, you got a Arizona team that has a potential to score points with Delara at quarterback. I mean, he's thrown for. I mean, he's the Will Rogers of the Pac-12. He's on a team that's not as good as possibly you could be when you got a quarterback that's approaching 3,000 yards. So yeah, if he has one of those nights, it could be an entertaining game. I just think UCLA is more physical and they run the ball. That's why, running is more consistent. If you're a running team that travels, it's a home game, but it's more consistent than a passing game. Arizona may come out and light it up. That's why it could be interesting. But with DTR and Charbonnet, you're talking about a physical running team, and that is just more consistent. That's why UCLA will win the game. But a special Delara night could make that fun late night.
Yeah, I like Jaden Delara a lot. I liked him at Washington State last year. Jeb Fish has done a really good job with him. The offense is not bad. Their defense is awful. They've given up 45-plus in 5 of 6 conference games this year. This total 77.5. It's the largest total we've seen in the FBS this year. UCLA's 5-1 against the number of their last 6. They've scored 30-plus in 12 straight games. They've gone over 400 yards in 13 straight games. Chip Kelly's got this offense dialed in. UCLA, I think, is going to run the table, and I think they're going to be right there in the mix for the college football playoff.
Yeah, but keep in mind that this UCLA defense gave about 36 last week to Arizona State, and the 4-game losing streak that Arizona's on. Brown, listen to these teams. See if they sound familiar to you. They've lost 4 straight. They were 3-2. They've lost to Oregon, Washington, USC, and Utah. Those are the 4 best teams in the Pac-12.
It's true. That's true.
That's the 4 games they've lost. And in those games, they scored 22 against Oregon, 39 against Washington, 37 against USC. And then last week on the road at Utah, they lost 45-20.
All right, both of you kind of gave your Auburn and UAB picks already. I like Auburn minus the 1.5. Actually, I talked to an Auburn player, former Auburn player yesterday. He told me he thinks it'll be a near Iron Bowl type atmosphere there. So I thought that seemed like a little bit of an overstatement, but we'll see when the game hits the TV a little bit later on tonight. So make an official Alabama pick, LT. I'll start with you. LT, honoring those who have served by doing the show from the deck of the USS Lexington today. LT, who do you think? Alabama win and who covers?
This is not a traditional Nick Saban Alabama team. I think we all agree with that. It's still one of the top 10 teams to me in college football. And I don't think Ole Miss is there yet. I think this game means a lot for both head coaches. But again, Alabama hasn't lost consecutive games since 2013, and they're 9-0 since 2008, following a loss, winning by an average of 32-7. So I think Alabama wins this game, and I think it's a pretty healthy win. I don't know why I'm saying this because Alabama's terrible on the road, but I'm going to be stubborn.
I thought Alabama would have an easy win last week against LSU. So I don't know what you get from this Alabama team anymore. Judkins is really good. Dart's going to be a star in this league. Alabama doesn't turn the other team over if they for some reason start getting the turnovers from Dart and Judkins and those type of situations. I think Alabama can win this one comfortably. But I'm probably the majority of most Alabama fans today. I don't know what you're going to get, and I'm not comfortable about an Alabama win, let alone a cover.
All right, thank you very much to everyone that has brought you the show today. JohnstonRVCenter.com, I-65, exit 304 in Coleman, JohnstonRVCenter.com, and Champy's world-famous fried chicken. Great for your tailgates down in Auburn or your football viewing parties. Get those tamales, the po' boys, the great chicken fingers, great sides, great desserts. We'll be back live with you later on tonight. Pay attention, probably after the Auburn game. We'll see, if anything wild happens at the Bama game. Probably after the Auburn game tonight for a late-night recap. Set your alerts, though, and follow us on social media so you know when we are there at Next Round Live. All right, boys, enjoy the games today. LT, don't go kill a neighbor.